When you hear the word psychopath, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably some kind of movie villain, right? Hiding in the shadows. But what if the real thing wasn't some monster, but the most charismatic person in the room, the star employee, or maybe even someone you know? That's the really unsettling idea we're going to unpack today. The personality that hides in plain sight.
If you strip away all the Hollywood hype, this is what you're left with. It's a pretty stark definition, isn't it? It's not just about thinking you're great. It's about a massive ego that operates in a total vacuum, where the feelings and rights of other people just don't exist.
And here's the twist, the part that makes this all so difficult. That cold, empty inner world is hidden behind this incredible disguise. A psychiatrist named Harvey Cleckley called it the mask of sanity, and that phrase is just perfect. It's this flawless, convincing illusion of a normal, charming person, and it's designed to fool just about everyone.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How can you possibly tell the difference between genuine charm and a performance that's designed to manipulate you? Well, that's what we're here to do. We're going to connect the dots from the clinical definitions to the kinds of red flags you might actually hear or see for yourself.
Okay, let's get into the language here, because you hear these words, psychopaths, sociopaths, thrown around all the time, almost like they mean the same thing. And while they do overlap, they come from different places and have some really important distinctions.
The traditional way of thinking about it kind of split them into two camps. Psychopaths were seen as being born that way. It's just part of their wiring. They're the cold, calculating, careful ones. Sociopaths, on the other hand, were thought to be made by their environment. Things like severe trauma or abuse. They tend to be a lot more impulsive, more obviously erratic. But here's the most important takeaway. In a modern clinic, a doctor isn't going to diagnose someone with either of those labels.
The official term you'll find in the diagnostic manual is Antisocial Personality Disorder, or ASPD. This diagnosis focuses on the things you can actually see and measure, a long-term pattern of disregarding rules, lying, and violating other people's rights. So think of it this way. Almost every true psychopath would also fit the criteria for ASPD, but not everyone with ASPD has that profound lack of empathy that defines psychopathy.
So, to really get to the heart of what psychopathy is, professionals use this incredible tool called the Psychopathy Checklist Revised, or PCL-R. It is absolutely the gold standard, and it breaks down all the traits into 4 main categories. You can think of them as the 4 faces of the disorder. Let's look at each one.
First up, you've got the interpersonal face. This is the mask. It's built from that smooth, superficial charm that can just sweep you off your feet. But right underneath that surface is a sense of self-worth that is completely off the charts, a constant habit of pathological lying, and a real talent for manipulation. These aren't separate traits. They work together as part of a performance to get what they want.
Next, we pull back the mask and look at the affective face. And what we find is a whole lot of nothing. This is all about what they can't feel. No guilt, no remorse. No real empathy for another person's pain. Their emotions are incredibly shallow. It's this emotional black hole that allows them to hurt people without a second thought and to never, ever accept responsibility for it.
Now that emotional emptiness leads directly to this, the lifestyle phase. You see, if you don't have those emotional anchors like guilt or a sense of duty, your life often becomes really chaotic. They get bored so easily, so they're always chasing the next thrill. This makes it almost impossible to stick to long-term goals, hold down a steady job, or be responsible. It often becomes a parasitic way of life, just moving from one person to the next.
And finally, all of this, it has to come out somewhere. That's the antisocial face. This is where all that internal stuff, the lack of empathy, the impulsivity, spills out into destructive behavior. We're talking about poor impulse control, behavioral problems that usually start really young, and a consistent, often versatile pattern of breaking rules and laws as a core part of their life.
Okay, so that's the clinical side of things. But what does any of this actually look like in the real world? How does it sound in a conversation you're having? Let's start connecting these ideas to the kind of red flags you might actually come across.
But hang on, before we go another step, I have to put up a huge stop sign here. This is so important. This is all for your education, to help you understand a concept. It is absolutely not a checklist to go out and diagnose your boss or your ex. Labeling people is not the goal. A real assessment is a serious process that can only be done by a trained professional. Okay? Okay.
So you might be thinking, this stuff must be incredibly rare, right? Well, the research suggests it's about 1% of the general population. Now, 1% sounds tiny, but think about it. That means for every 100 people you know, one of them likely has significant psychopathic traits. And what's really wild is that in places with high stakes and power, like in corporate boardrooms, that number is thought to be way, way higher.
One of the clearest red flags you can spot is in their language. Let's say they do something that hurts you and you call them on it. A very common tactic is to immediately turn it around. Hearing "you're just so sensitive" is a classic. It's a move designed to make you doubt your own feelings. Suddenly, the problem isn't their action, it's your reaction.
And then there's this one, which takes things to another level. This is pure gaslighting. It's a tactic specifically used to make you question your own mind, your memory, your perception of what's real. If they can make you believe you're the one who's crazy, they gain an enormous amount of control over you.
And then you have this kind of statement, which is straight-up emotional blackmail. Let's be very clear about this. This is not a genuine cry for help. It is a calculated threat designed to trap you using your own sense of guilt and fear. It makes leaving feel impossible because you've been made to feel responsible for whatever happens next. It's an incredibly powerful and cruel form of control.
Recognizing these patterns is a huge first step. But really, the most important question is, now what? Once you suspect you're dealing with someone who has these traits, your entire focus has to shift. It's no longer about them, it's about protecting yourself.
The game plan here is all about boundaries, not battles. You can't change them. So first, you have to build strong boundaries and stick to them no matter what. Second, stop engaging in emotional arguments. It's a game they're better at, and you will not win. Third, keep educating yourself. The more you understand their playbook, the less power it has over you. And finally, and this might be the most important, get support. Talk to people. Don't let yourself be isolated.
That mask of sanity is powerful because it's designed to play on our best instincts, our ability to trust, our desire to see the good in people. Learning how to spot the cracks in that mask isn't about becoming a cynic. It's about becoming wise. It's about being aware. And ultimately, it's about having the tools you need to protect your own well-being.